All right, let's get a big, beautiful brush here. Dipping into a little of my medium. And I don't know, I'm just gonna kind of grab something. Just gonna grab a little color here.
Did anybody think the weather would be doing this today? No. They stubborn yesterday?
I can't trust those weather forecasters.
Don't bother looking at those, yeah.
Are you using though? Is it
Okay, so what I'm gonna do at this moment, I'm just grabbing whatever, honestly, it doesn't matter what color I'm using. I'm just gonna use something reddish, I don't really, nothing, who cares? So the first point is, that's a beautiful pose, I want that pose. Head over slightly, a little bit more. So it's gonna be somewhere there with the head, I'm not quite sure. The first thing to do is to decide what I want for composition. I've already kind of thought of this a little bit. Some tree stuff coming back through there. Top of the head, maybe here. Maybe I can move this around too. No, I don't want to do that. Let's do something different. Let's do tree coming through there. Let's do top of the head here. Yeah. And coming down, or I'll do a little bit smaller actually. I'm going to show more. So many options. I'm going to cover all this up soon, but I kind of want to just like really visualize this on here before. I like that, yeah. It's dark. There we go. Smiley face there. We're almost done. Love that. Probably won't get to that. I'm just kind of deciding a little bit of what I want to do with composition. I will. That's what I'm about to do here. I don't normally tone. It always depends. It just depends. I'm about to tone. I'm going to put these darks in here. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm happy with the size of everything. There's so much going on with legs and everything too, but I kind of like this closer crop here. I'm thinking I'll stick with that. Yeah. Get a touch of the leg there. Big brush.
What brush is it, Casey?
Big one. This is the background brush. Number 12. Ivory long flat.
I think it's French. Rosemary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rosemary.
Oh yeah, we're filming.
All right, so now basically I'm just grabbing ivory black, a little bit of Indian yellow. I'm basically just adding yellow to ivory black. That's what I'm doing. But I went really dark. Really dark. Darker. We're gonna need more paint. More yellow. A lot more paint. So this is kind of our block, and in a way I'm happy with what we've got going on here so far. Red, yellow. I mean, I'm going to try to, I think the best way for me to explain these things, what I've found is for me to just do a few things first and then talk about why, like to really explain why I'm doing that, why I'm making these decisions. Obviously we can still have a conversation while I'm doing this, but it's kind of easier for me to just show you a few things. If you have any questions though, just shout it out so we can talk about it. But in the beginning, I'm just going to put some stuff on and kind of follow my instinct here.
Do you like to search out the darkest areas?
I think, yeah, finding the lightest light and the darkest dark as early as possible is going to make things a lot easier down the road, because you're kind of finding your range. It's like finding your limitations, where you're allowed to go, your extremities. If I know where the darkest dark is, then I can compare all of my values against both the lightest light and the darkest dark and figure out where that value stands in the middle of it, but you actually see it visually. If this darkest dark were not here, how do I know? I can say that the shadow of her face is a little bit lighter than the darkest dark in reality, and I know the relation of how far apart it's spread. But I won't know it on here because I don't have that dark on here. So go ahead and put it on instantly. And look, this is just ivory black. I mean, just make it dark, straight black. No modification whatsoever. Look at that, straight ivory black. Ivory black. You can always modify it. Next, let's pull out some blue. I'll rotate these around here. We're going to add a little bit of reddish yellow to this blue mixture. So I'm noticing it needs more red yellow. Touch too dark, so we'll just pull that back out. And we'll go a little bit lighter, a little more blue. Good, good, good. Good, good, good. Do we have some sort of timer or something for Jess? How do we know?
The one you want.
I'll just work a little bit, but if you ever need to stretch or move, just go for it.
Who knows it's Remy? Hay fever, sorry.
Oh, it's all right. Stole this little trick from Sargent. Right where that bright area meets the background, there's this intense blue illusion color there that makes this look warmer. If you have something next to blue, if you have white next to blue, the white optically looks warm because of just like if you have anything next to green, any sort of like a gray next to a green or next to a red, it kind of looks like the opposite. So if we just add a tiny touch of warmth here, it's going to actually look way warmer because it's next to blue, if that makes sense. That's how we get the sunlight effect. Transition color, that's what that is. So we're just taking our time, filling in these little areas of paint. And I'm so far, very happy with what's happening here. Let's go ahead and go. Just a touch. No, not even that much. Tiniest touch of cadmium orange. Good. Good. All right, let's throw some values in for the face. So what I'm actually thinking here, and this applies to pretty much every painting I'll ever do, is as early as possible, I like to get values in. The values in is to be as close as possible to what they should be. Value, 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 value is everything. Value is more important at this point, from the standpoint of priority. Value is more important than color. Value is more important than proportion. If the proportions of all of this is not exactly right, it doesn't matter as much to me. What matters is value. And when you think of it that way, it kind of simplifies it all. Value. If the values are right, then we just build on top of that, which you'll see very soon. Value, value, value. You can always move things around to get them in the right spot. Got to get these values in first, though. So what I'm doing overall, this is the way I'm thinking. I'm going to throw you guys in sort of the deep water with what I'm doing today, and then over the next week, I'm going to kind of dissect it and explain why I'm doing these things, why I'm making these decisions, how it all works. There goes our light, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, it's coming back soon. And the thing you have to also realize is at this stage, you can't freak out about it not looking like anything, like a person or something. You have to trust that it will get there. If I lay these values on correctly, and then secondly, after the values, then I put the appropriate color on the values. And then as I'm tweaking edge work, I'm kind of modifying the proportions. At that point, it's going to be done. Good, there's our sun. Great. Great, great, great. Great. Oh, seeing so many things. I just want to get it all on at once. Gotta take my time here. Lots of paint. A little bit darker there. A little bit more red. So the fun thing is, and we'll really dive into this, but basically color rests on value. You will never, 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 never have the correct color ever if the value is not correct. So only after you realize, like you find out what this color is, do you realize, are your hand okay over there? That's okay. We'll take a little break for a second. Only after you find the color or the value do you ask yourself, what color is it? And then you just modify. You add more red, more yellow, more blue without changing the value. So we'll get there too. Let's soften a couple edges. Okay, this is good. And at this stage, come on, come on now. Come on now. Come on now. There we go. Little textural effects coming through here, starting to appear. I like that stuff. So I consider this whole block end stage is just what it is. It's a block end. It's just phase one, laying everything down, and then we'll sort of shift gears soon and actually make things what they are. Okay, right there. Good. Let's capture this. Still. It's going to look different no matter what. There's no way I can light it under this light. The thing is, it's going to be a little darker indoors, so what I'd probably have to do in painting in full sunlight like this, I'd probably just put an extra bulb, 2 lights shining to make it a little brighter, and it'll look more like this again. The temperature of the light here, though, is going to be very similar to... You see how we're doing that? I'm just taking what was already on there and moving it to modify the proportions now. The temperature is going to be similar because sunlight is warm and incandescent spotlights are warm too. But it's the brightness that I'll have to fuss with later. That's about all. Good. Oh, this weather is wonderful. Again, value is more important right now than color. Value is more important than color. Get these values. And we're going to need to take a little break in just a second here. Not quite, one more minute. Not this brush, not this brush. Give me a second.
With something like this, Casey, like if you felt it's going well and it's good painting, but maybe the likeness is off, would you continue with the painting as it is, or would you go back and rework and try and find the likeness again?
Well,
Would you be happier with it as?
Like I was saying, the proportion or likeness is something that I feel like I prioritize a little more on the higher scale only after I'm very sure that I've got my values correct.
Yeah.
So proportion and likeness is of course going to be very important to me. However, it's not from a checklist of order of operation, it's not the first thing that I care about. Like obviously try to get it close, but I'm not stressing over that at this point because I know I can just bump things around ever so slightly, and in doing so, it will create the right likeness, because lightness, of course, is just getting the shapes in the right spot. I'm more worried about value right now. Yes. Also, the trick to color is see everything at once. Never look into a color ever, ever, ever. Never ask yourself, what color is that? Let's take a touch of a break. Stretch out just a little bit. Oh. The beginning. Okay, clean the brush. Now I'm shifting gears mentally, and I'm going to kind of get a little bit more careful with some of this.
Casey, do you tend to leave a spot and then wait for the light to come back, or you? Okay.
I'm trying to just, if I'm painting when the light is not here, I'm just painting from kind of memory.
Right.
I'll do that later. Finger painting here. Don't like what that was.
That's what you need. It's the finger brush.
Finger brush, yes.
That's designed for.
Arguably, you've already got your own.
You can sell anything if you've got the right person asking it.
I'm pretty good at that. Sometimes I have a belter. Casey, you know that word now.
I do.
Belter.
I just learned that.
Do you know the song?
She is a belter. Yeah. Better than the rest. Yeah.
Sing it, Simi.
You know it's hard being so entertaining, isn't it?
Come on, son. Come on, son.
How's our model doing?
Could you grab me some blue roll?
Blue roll? Yeah.
Hay fever blast.
Ah. Yes, yes, yes.
Unless you want a snotty nose on you.
That might be fun to paint.
How urgent is it? I've got a tissue if you want it. Do you need it now?
No, it's all right.
So now I'm sort of messing around with, there's our sun. Messing around with a little bit of proportion. Ah, there it is, I can see. Stay here, stay here, stay here. Nope, 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 come back. Okay. Now I put the white on there, but I can change again the transitions by warming up the sides, by adding orangey stuff to the side. Okay. Now you have to understand something too. This is important to know, is when I'm out here usually doing work from life, oftentimes I'm not necessarily concerned with overall proportion as much as, you know, usually the idea is to capture the value and the color of what it is I'm seeing. Because I can always go back to the studio and just sort of bump things around if I need to get some kind of like moment of drawing. That's, I mean, she's sitting there, we're painting over 3 hours, and it's almost impossible, unless I'm inventing things, it's impossible to come up with a way to make that look spontaneous. You can do it, it's fine, but it's not necessary to get that now. That's why proportion is not something I'm battling with right now. Because if I know that I'm getting these values and these colors right, I can shift things around left, right, up, down anytime I want to in the studio. But what I can't do in the studio is see what's here. That's the most important. So if nothing else, get those right. And if I was working on a small little canvas, it would just be blobs of color and transition colors. Take some pictures and then create this thing with your foundation color value. Value, color, value, color. Come on, son. We gotta fix this little area here. We're getting there though, we're getting there. It's all coming together slowly. We've got somewhat of a face here happening. So try to brush some of this up in here. It's very important to know good. Value, color, and then transition colors. It's all about the transition colors. That's what creates the effect and illusion of reality. There it is. God, so many things to look at. Okay. Stay. Red, yellow. The thing is too, when you notice a certain color, see where else it is. Where else do you see that? It's never going to be in just one place. It saves time from having to mix something 15 times. You find it, there it is. Where else is that? See it all at once. It's there, 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 there. Little trick. Good, and now it's all gone again. It'll come back though. This is going to be a back and forth. It's okay by me. It's a nice rich green back here that I'm going to see if I can get. Darker, darker, darker.
So when you were just saying darker, 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 I didn't see what you added into that. So did you add a red into it? Or?
Anything really. What I did was I went back to the phthalo green and ivory black. So I just needed something dark without, well, yeah, just something dark. Now I didn't want to go with the blue because it's too much blue. So either a little bit of blue, which is the ivory black, or straight green, because I know it's going to be a greenish color, which is blue yellow. So basically lots of dark, dark blue with a touch of yellow. And then I'm gonna warm that up a little bit. Don't use the word warm, but add more red to it. So we've got blue, a little bit of yellow, and a touch of red is basically what I'm seeing over here. And then we're gonna add a touch more yellow while making it slightly lighter and a touch of red. So the trick is value first. Get the value and then ask yourself, you lay it on and then ask yourself, does it need more red, yellow, or blue? Assuming the value is right. Now, the real trick to this whole thing, value first and then color, it's a very simple in concept, but where you're going to be having trouble is, first off, finding the value. Value is actually probably the most difficult thing, and when something is incorrect on a painting, it's 99% of the time probably your value. Value is much more difficult to see than you think. Stay here, son. Stay here. Oh, I love this. See things. Are you guys kind of seeing what I'm seeing with all this? Is this making sense? I'm in such a sort of focused mood right now, trying to capture this before the sun goes away. I just want to make sure we're kind of following here. I don't want to lose you guys. Transition color. Transition color. There's a glow around everything. Capture that glow, and you capture it by don't look into it. Don't look into it, look around it. And pay attention to what value it is. Make sure it's the right value.
When you're deciding on a value, are you comparing? Is that
Yes.
how you're- Yeah.
Values. Everything's comparison. You compare everything against 2 or 3 other points always. All right. Jess, bear with me for a minute. I'm just trying to get as much as I can while this light's out. And when the shade comes in, we'll take a little touch of a minute for you to stretch. Value. Now within this points, there's some darker points. Gotta find them. Good. Blue. Good, good. Blue. Red, yellow, blue. Good. I'm trying to just get all of this in, just as blocks of color as much as possible, and then when the shade comes down, I can soften a bunch of edges and things. Yeah, we'll have sunlight for a minute. Stretch yourself out just a touch, sorry. Now, obviously, up close, I'm just gonna step back for a second. Up close, the edges are not right, the proportions aren't perfect and everything, but there's a sense of light that I'm really happy with. So at this point now, of course, like I said, value, then color, then edge and proportion. So even if she weren't even really there, you could take a soft little brush. Let's see here. This long, flat Series 279 number 2 would be a good one. We're gonna clean this off, we're gonna dry it off, and we're just gonna do some edge work here. Actually, I'll do a smaller brush too. Really small little brush. Let's use this little Sable Series 99, little guy. Splay that out. With these round brushes, by the way, I splayed them out to make them all fuzzy and messy. Now I'm going to take a little bit of time and work on edges. Guide the eye with edges. We're very sloppy here, and I did that because I was rushing. What would have been a normal thing that I would do if I had all the time in the world is I would try to make sure that the edges of this painting are actually done, they're a little better edges, what I want as I'm going along, but I didn't have time for that, and since it's not the priority was value and color, so it doesn't really matter so much. But at this point I can come back in and just sort of relax here and clean up these edges. As I'm working on the edges also, I'm fixing my proportion. Moving these shapes around. Also able to do that because I've laid on a bit of paint. There's enough paint on here that I can move it around. It's not very like super thin. If this was really, really, really thin, I would not be able to move this around. Now I'm going to add on a little bit here though. Softening edges. Oops. That's a nice little area. I usually save the mouth for the end. Mouths are difficult. The overall proportion of the mouth. So now I'm modifying little colors in here while softening the edges. The edges need to be soft.
Would you also look for hard edge that you want to keep?
Absolutely. Edges are like the volume. It's what directs the eye. So if I want someone to look in a certain point, I make a harder edge, and if I want them to not look at a certain point, we just keep it really soft. I kind of like it when every edge, even the hardest edge, has the slightest bit of softness to it. It creates movement. There we go. Does anyone know what time it is?
Yeah, 10 to 3.
Oh, great. We've got plenty of time. All right. Soft, 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 soft. Soft. Some of our shadows have moved around a little bit, but that's okay. I'm not going to chase them. Take a little break, Jess, and just give yourself a little stretch. I'm just going to keep softening edges a little bit. Look at this splayed out rosemary brush. It's all just like wacky. Using it just to soften. Every edge should just be soft.
Do you prefer that to one of those fan brushes?
Yeah, I don't like fan brushes as much. They're almost too, I don't know, something about them I don't like. Soft. Everything should be soft. Let's give ourselves a little break, stand up and stretch it out.
When you're working on a painting, Casey, do you ever wait for and do it in layers, or do you prefer just getting it done like you said in the 4 days when it's all kind of wet at the same time?
Yeah, I don't really care for layers too much. I mean, you can pretty much get almost every effect in the direct painting method.
Yeah.
Pretty much. There's no real reason to have to layer things. Layering is a very cautious way to do it. It's not necessary though. All right, these lips have to be darker. Sometimes it does create interesting effects. It depends on what kind of effects I'm looking to do. There we go, that's what I want. Under here. And I need to step back and take a little break here. Very soon. Very soon. Let's just soften a couple more edges and I'll do that. Changes everything when the sun's gone. Yeah. Big, giant, soft brush. And I'm just gonna soften things. As much as possible, I like to go against the form, opposite the form, create that illusion. Well, that's definitely darker. Let's take a little breather for a second. Something very important to realize and understand. Oh, I gotta protect my eyes here. Is our eye is a very strange thing. Our eye and our mind. Every second that we look at something, or even think about something, our eye starts becoming numb to it slowly. both from a physical aspect and a mental aspect. The longer I stare at red, our eye inserts the opposite to gray everything off. Sort of a defense mechanism. You ever seen those illusions where you stare at something for a while and you close your eyes and it does the reverse? So that's what's happening. Your eye is inserting the opposite color. What that means is, let's say you're looking at a green and you want to know what color that green is. The longer you stare at it, the less you're actually seeing it. It's graying off. And there's a weird trick you can do sometimes if you're in a room or something or outside. You can stare at one single point, do not blink, do not move your eye at all. Give it like 30 seconds and everything goes gray in your vision. You're blind for a moment. Now the second you move your eye, you see it again. So what does that mean? That means when you're looking at color, this works for value too. If you look at black, your eye starts brightening up to see into the darkness, to gray it off into a neutral gray. If you look at bright, everything starts getting darker. So in order to see things, in order to see reality, we don't ever stare at anything. Anyways, reality, we're looking, we're moving. That's reality. We're seeing things as they are. When you're painting, you have to constantly keep your eye in motion. You don't ever look in to say, what is that color? 1 second, 2 seconds. You're losing it. You don't see it. Now that in itself, I mean, that's every person's natural tendency is to stare at what color. I'm just trying to figure out what color that is. Well, 5 seconds have gone by. Now the color, you're seeing it wrong, so you'll never find it. You see it by not seeing it. Second thing is mentally. The longer you're staring at something, you start seeing where you need to modify this, where you need to change that proportion. This edge is too hard. You need to bring that up. Maybe you want to paint more of this. And you're thinking on along these lines. But the longer we're thinking about this and the longer we're staring, the more that goes away. You become numb to it. You don't see it anymore. So what does that mean? You have to do the same thing mentally. For every 1 second that you're staring at your painting, you have to erase your mind, and it takes about 10 seconds to erase your mind of these thoughts. So this is what most people do, and you guys will probably do this tomorrow, and I've been guilty of this too. You look at your painting and you're like, well, it's not great, something's wrong with it, and we all step back and we stare at it, trying to figure out what to do. We're looking, and as if the longer we look, more things will be revealed to us. It's actually the opposite. The longer you stare, the less you see it. So, in a weird way, the goal in painting is to look at the painting as little as possible. You look at it just long enough to make a judgment call, go do it, and then look away. Then glance at the figure, the subject, then glance at the painting, then look away. Think about something else. Look at the hills, the clouds, then glance again. That second you glance with your mind's reset that's the time you see clearly, all right? Just as I'm doing now, I look up and I'm seeing 15 things that I just didn't see before. Now they're obvious. It's the same thing with life in general, you know. It's like we're in our house, in our environment, in our job, in our thing, and then we go take a trip, a vacation, we get away from it, we come back, and we're thrust in the middle of everything. We're like, whoa, I'm not okay with this. This is in my face more than I thought it was. Now, as humans, we're sort of built to adapt to things, and something that can be poking us, we just kind of get used to it poking us, and we don't care anymore. And all of a sudden we realize, oh God, why? It's poking me, stop. It's the same thing, any little thing that's bothering. So I'm saying this in many different ways, but the point is, the more time you don't look at your painting, the better. So tomorrow I'm going to be bonking all of you on the head. Stop looking at it. Take a break, and you're like, well, but I just need to, nope. Look somewhere else. Look at something else. Look down. I save that as the last resort. A mirror is a new way to look at this. Look at it backwards, and all of a sudden you see clearly as if you've never seen it before. And that's the way you want. You want to keep yourself in such a state of mind that every time you look at it, it's as if you've never seen this before. Because that's the only time you truly see from a purely neutral, natural standpoint. It's as if you can erase your memory and stumble upon this painting as if it wasn't even yours and say, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. I love that and that, but I don't really like that.